So the 6 weeks in English 2 honors, we used something called hexagonal thinking. And the way that we used it is we used all of our students were reading historical fiction novels with a lit circle. And we wanted to give an opportunity for them to have discussions with their small group, but then also have an opportunity to take what they're discussing in their small groups and apply it to a big picture whole class. And the way that we did that was through hexagonal thinking. And there's really 3 different steps that you have. You have the initial reflection that the students make on their own with their hexagon. You have a post into the big picture, and then you have a reflection of their post. And so how we used that is we first gave them questions that were derived from or were our essential questions. And with that essential question, they had to answer it using one of these hexagons. And what we had 4 expectations for them. So the expectations were first that they answered the question with a symbol. So it was an opportunity for them to visualize their answer, but also to be creative. And their second expectation was that they explained on the hexagon what that symbol was and how it answered their question. And then they also had to make sure that they had their name on the front of their hexagon. And the reason that we did this is so that students had the opportunity to go find the authority of that hexagon so that they could ask them questions, which is really important to when they're making those connections to the big post. And then the last thing that we had them do was, because we had 8 different books, we had a color coding system that would go on. So they had to outline their hexagon with that color. So for example, if they were reading the things they carried, they would outline their hexagon in green. If they were reading Between Shades of Gray, they would outline it in gray. So after they answered their question and completed their hexagon, they would go outside into the hall, and there would be a hexagon that we'd created with that essential question. And they would post their hexagon on the wall, connecting it to that essential question, but there was some intentionality behind it, which took a minute to explain to them. So we told them that they had to connect their hexagon to someone else's hexagon, and the ideas somehow had to relate.
Right now I'm reflecting and I'm trying to figure out how my hexagon connected to the ones around it and which ways I can add on to make it all fit together better. So you can figure out what the big picture of the novel is, and you can also figure out the big picture of the whole unit, the social injustices that are in each book. Some of them are from the 2 that are close to mine are from my novel, but there's one from another novel. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's talking about how some people in the Holocaust got a loaf of bread, but others didn't because they were secluded for other reasons than the others were. It was even more separated than they thought. So, and mine's basically talking about how whenever they come back from war, they are secluded as aliens basically, because times have changed since they were there. And yeah,
I wasn't as strict with them making those connections because I knew that there was going to be an opportunity where they were going to be explaining that connection, and as long as they could explain that, I thought that that was meaningful for them. So I basically gave them a couple of ideas just so they understood what intentional placing of their hexagon would look like. And so I said, it could be that they chose to symbolize their answer similarly to you. It could be that their explanation tied together all of our novels were connected to the theme topic of social injustice, and so it could be related that way in any way that they thought, because I knew that they were going to have to explain that connection, and I let them know that too, so that they didn't feel like they needed to go back and replace it somewhere else. But then they were connecting it, and what I saw is that they were really great at trying to not connect it with something of the same novel. Most of them where they wanted to somehow make a connection to how can the things they carried connect to Invisible Man, which was super cool. And then the third final step is that you take a picture of your hexagon with the surrounding hexagons, and we gave them an opportunity, and we were using dialectical journals, to post that picture in their dialectical journal. And then we gave them basically 3 different things that they're going to include in their reflection. The first thing was, what was your original connection? And I told my kids, this is an opportunity for you to, even though you've explained on your hexagon, to maybe explain further. And then I said that they needed to explain why they posted their hexagon next to someone else's. So what connection did they see? And again, I was really intentional on my end to make sure that I was letting them have authentic reflection, because that's one of our things that we're focusing on with our dialectical journal. And I thought it was important for me not to be so nitpicky and let them have an opportunity just to discuss with one another. And then finally, what was cool, and this is why you do have to wait a little bit until other people connect their hexagons to their hexagon, but finally they had to, and this is kind of the higher level thinking of where they were, we don't really know if we're right or not. And I said, that's fine. You just have to be thinking about, why did someone else place their hexagon next to your hexagon? And I did this with all of my classes. And so what I loved is that not only were my lit circles having a discussion with all of the lit circles in their class, they were having a discussion with all the lit circles in all of my classes. So people in first period were able to make connections to people in sixth period, and vice versa. It also ended up being super cool if you look back, and what I love is whenever even they're going back out there and posting with the second question, I say, look at how many different ways we connected novels that weren't the same novel, where you can see that you can be reading, your novel's a vessel to get you to the understanding of, literary analysis or, this theme, but the way that you get there's, you can still collaborate through discussion, even if you're not using the same novel at all.
It's changed my thinking on like how to read and annotate different books and how to just understand things better. It's like a new way to think and like a new way to understand things.
Is it